Welcome to the Amazing Authorities Podcast, where game changers, visionaries, and category leaders share how they built their brands, platforms, and global influence. Your host is Mitch Carson, international speaker, media strategist, and creator of the Instant Authority System. If you're ready to learn from those who've done it and want to become the go-to expert in your space, you're in the right place.
We have a special guest today, Dr. Shanea Clancy. I had to get her name right at the beginning because it's Shanea, but I guess you drop the syllable. So it's just Shanea Clancy, who's here today as an amazing authority. And this woman has more education than I've had with over 100 guests on my podcast. I'm at 100. You're my 110th guest, just so you know. Yes.
Hey.
Yeah. So you are special, more than what your mother have told you. And you've earned that distinction today here. So welcome to the Amazing Authorities podcast.
Thank you so much, Mitch. I'm glad to be here, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah. And you've had, when I looked at your LinkedIn profile and I saw all of those abbreviations after your name, I said, oh my. So you have a PhD in
nursing.
Okay. And everybody loves nurses. And you also have an MBA.
I have an executive MBA in healthcare. So that's a postdoc. I went back after my doctorate.
Okay. Are you called a perennial student?
Forever student? Absolutely. Yes. I'm a first generation college student too.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
I stopped at MBA, flirted with the idea of PhD, but I realized, oh my word, that's a lot more work. And I think I'll stop there. And now I'm happy with what I did. I don't regret any of the education. You know, I had a mentor who loved to hassle me and the other person who had an MBA in the mastermind. We had a mastermind, and he used to say, oh, well, Mitch and Steve are here for more bad advice with their MBAs. I thought, okay.
More bad advice.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm picking up what you're throwing down.
Yeah, I thought, okay, well, that's good. And, he says, well, we don't have any PhDs here piled high and deep, but we'll have more bad advice from the two MBAs in the group.
I've never heard that. I love it.
Well, you learn something new every day, and you had to get interviewed on my podcast while I'm in Thailand and you're in Pittsburgh. Well, this is great. So show us your book. I want to start because I love interviewing authors because you've gone the extra mile, not just with the designations of your respectable education. I do respect what you've done. It takes commitment, drive, and perseverance, I would say, is the big P word there, is perseverance. Tell us about your book.
Yeah, so this was the first book I wrote. It's called Transforming Trauma into Triumph. And it's my testimony. It's my story, overcoming adversity, making poor decisions. And a lot of people have said, really, it's a guide to just transformation, whatever that looks like. And I was just glad to write it and share it with the world. As long as it helps one person, then I feel like is worth it.
And what got you into writing a book? Is it because you have your PhD, so you have to publish or perish?
No, absolutely not. No, I actually was at a conference and I heard Ann Baylor, so the founder of Annie and Pretzels. I heard her story, and it was in that moment I got this download. It was like, you need to write your book. And I was like, okay, I'm also in the middle of my executive MBA in healthcare and just gave birth to our third child, but let's do it. All right.
Oh, and you're a mother of three too.
I am. Yes.
Oh my word. Wow.
7, 5, and 3.
Well, you're busy.
Little bit.
So what was the catalyst for writing this book?
The catalyst was just really trying to help people because I'm in the realm of, addiction, nursing, and mental health, suicide prevention. And not that my story touches on every single aspect of that, but mental health, it touches everybody, right? And so when I make poor decisions, which is the really foundation of this book, that came with a lot of, emotional, mental health, PTSD kind of things that we're talking. And I figured, hey, if I can help one person know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, even if it's like a sliver, and our past doesn't have to define us. That's why I did it.
And you're an international bestseller with this book. How did you cause that?
Number one international
Number
bestseller.
one. Oh, okay. Well, you're not competitive, but tell us how.
I very much so am. Type A, competitive. Let's go.
Well, how did you achieve that distinction, which is not easy? I know that.
Yeah, so I just worked really hard with a group of folks that knew people around the world. And so I honestly didn't know that number one international bestseller was a thing until I got it. So that's the wildest part. I thought it was, either New York Times or nothing. I was like,
Well, I work in the publishing industry. I'm an author publicist in
okay,
so I know in order to, and I help people become international bestseller status. That means two countries,
yes.
two different Amazon entities.
Mhm.
So I work with India and the USA and the UK.
Okay.
Those are the
We had
markets.
Canada, Ireland. We had a ton of, there was probably 7 or 8 different countries.
And how did you achieve that?
So just like you said, the strategy of, using CRM connections, really marketing from the beginning, well in advance. That's where people kind of drop the ball is the marketing piece is very much in advance. Just getting the word out there, doing interviews, podcast interviews, newspaper articles, and I set the
Did you do
stage,
any
I guess.
TV? Did you do any TV interviews?
Not specific for this book, but I've done tons of them as a subject matter expert.
Okay, but not for your book. That's usually
No.
something I prescribe for my clients. I mean, podcasts are one thing, TV is a big part of it because that's the ultimate credential to
Yes.
yeah, and to have your book publicized on television, then that opens doors and it creates that snowball effect.
Yes, I know. I haven't really done that yet.
And so you have how many books have you written?
I wrote 8 books in 10 months.
Hello? And you have
Hi.
3 kids? How
Yes.
did you do that? My word, are you like a super achiever or do you not sleep?
Oh, well, I definitely like to sleep, that's for sure. Just very much into time management, time blocking, effectiveness, and I'm not like somebody that sticks by a schedule. Like I give myself grace. I just was in the mindset, and that's where I think I had to be able to do that.
Eight
I've what,
books.
three more coming out before the end of the year.
How did you pump out all those books in such a short period of time? I'm fascinated.
So when I said I was given like the download for this first book, there was like like a slew of different types of books that I really wanted to do. I have, like you said, a wide variety, a wide palette of credentials, and that's just a fraction of them for when you talk about letters. And I was like, I want to be able to mix them all together so that if somebody wants this color out of the palette, I have a book for it, right? I have one over here. But it's all things that I'm an expert in. And the next one is mountaineering mindsets. I'm so excited for that one.
So you're a mountaineer also?
Yeah, I'm a
Are-
trained mountaineer.
A what kind of mountaineer?
A trained mountaineer,
A
like
trained
climbing all
mountain.
the mountains.
Did you have billy goats as pets growing up or something?
No, I did grow up on a farm though. I raised sheep and I hated those things. I had to shear them. That's
Oh,
awful. Let's
okay.
not talk about 4-H, but no.
So mountaineering, you're an expert
Yes.
in. What else? I mean, let's get into this. All these different books. I'm
Suicide
intrigued.
prevention. So I train people nationally on suicide prevention, PTSD, crisis intervention. I'm also a trained mediator, so I've done federal EEOC cases as well. That's all that's coming to my mind right now. Oh,
But you
mental health, addiction, business is very quickly becoming one.
So we talked about addiction before we started the show. What
Hmm.
is your spin on addiction? How does one overcome this? Because I consider myself quite knowledgeable on the topic. I'm very
Yeah.
open about it. I no longer hide it or ashamed of it. I'm 41 years clean and sober myself, and
Yes.
that is my crowning achievement in life. It pales, anything else pales to that result, that outcome,
Yes.
because my whole life built out of that hub has been built out of that hub of success.
Hmm.
But what is your spin on it? Do you believe in the 12-step program? Is there another type of what what causes people to go there
I have
and get
a
out of it?
very, very wide thought process when it comes to this. And I'll make it short and sweet because the United States is very far behind when it comes to different treatments for any kind of addiction or substance use. Very closed-minded, and I'm saying this because I do this internationally with other countries. There is almost like if there's anything involved that would help somebody, it's a waste of money kind of mindset. But if you go to like the UK and a lot of these other countries, they're very forward thinking, like safe using spaces, very much ahead when it comes to Narcan before even we had it. Just a lot of different things. So when it comes to a specific program, I don't believe that there's a one shoe fits all because we are
True.
all different. And if one thing works for you, something else works for me, and the third thing works for like our best friend, together. Maybe we have a mutual best friend. We're going to make one up. Um, then it is what it is. So I don't have a philosophy either way, but I do think mindset has a lot to do with it. And being in healthcare, I do realize that there is that, molecular component as well for the, dopamine effects, the GABA, receptors and all of that. So just all those combinations. And like I said, whatever's going to work for you or me or whoever.
I have been familiar with Smart Recovery, which is another system to deal with
Mm-hmm.
it. The 12 steps have been my success story. And I
Mm-hmm.
also came to realize it's not the only way to reach Oz. There are several yellow brick roads to get there to living drug and alcohol free.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think moderation works. Now, some
No.
people will say, and the why I'm so passionate about the topic because it's also part of my story. I gave a TEDx talk on this, and it got kicked out of TEDx because it was so controversial. It was, is alcoholism and drug addiction an excuse for bad behavior? Was the title of my talk. I
Mm-hmm.
have thousands of views, but it's all organic. It has nothing to do with TEDx. When it was submitted, and I spoke at the medical university in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Internet,
Mm-hmm.
IMU is what it's called, International Medical University. I spoke there, well received, but then TEDx screened it out. It never passed, which was
Wow.
interesting. Yeah, and the topic was, do you think alcoholism and drug addiction is in fact a disease?
Is that your question to me?
Yes, yes.
I love this question. I just got in this great debate with this fella who lives in Canada. His name's Ivan. He's come up with this completely different philosophy when it comes to recovery, both mental health and addiction. And he is anti 12 steps, right? He's very much in what he has going on. But do I think that it is an addiction, you said? Or,
Yes. Well,
yeah.
is alcohol and drug use a disease, or is it an excuse for bad behavior?
It's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Because
Correct.
most people that have any kind of addiction, right? We were talking about this before the show. It doesn't have to be substance. It could be shopping, like,
Sugar,
anything, you name it.
ice cream for me.
Right? Who doesn't love that? Sprinkles, caffeine, like all these things. But at the root of that, there is also more than likely something that happened along the way and it became a coping mechanism.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And so does that justify the poor choices? No, but getting to that root of that shows that it is a sometimes DNA aspect as well, because people have addictive personalities versus those that maybe not so much. And then on the flip side, did somebody, start using because a friend introduced them and there was nothing really in that background that's traumatic, but it's that, what do they say? The first one's free and they got to pay for the rest. So then that would be poor choices. They chose to engage in whatever that was, and then they went down the road that way. So I think that it's a multi-view
Well, like you
response.
have this man that you mentioned that you had this debate and he is anti 12 steps. Is he pitching something else or is it just a strong conviction?
It's both, because he actually lost his sister to suicide, and she was very much involved in AA and NA,
Right.
and his philosophy was, you're in a room and you say, "Hi, I'm Shana," or "Hi, I'm Mitch," or "Hi, I'm this person. I'm an alcoholic," right? So,
Correct.
or "I'm an addict." Those are the phrases that take place in those rooms. And so that's where I always had a disconnect, because I had gone to some AA meetings because I was in a vehicle crash, like I told you beforehand. And I remember sitting there and I was like, I can't say this. Like, I feel like a fraud if I say this, because I know the first step is admitting, right, that there's an
Correct.
issue. But then it turns into how we identify. And if I keep saying to myself, I'm Shana, I'm this, it's not always a positive thing, because it relates back to all the pieces that made us to where we are today. That's that was his kind of thought process, and I tended to sort of agree with that, because, like I said, the U.S. is behind, and people can still use methadone, right? They can still need medication for mental health. Just like I said, it's not always a one shoe fits all, and it took me a while to get to that space. It wasn't that I came, about just thinking that substituting this and that, but I just think that there's a lot more that could be explored, and what we call ourselves is what we live out. Like our thoughts becomes our words become our actions. So I just think that spin on that thought process was pretty interesting.
There are several, and smart recovery is another, and they don't have any component of spirituality in it. Where AA, it was founded in 1935 by Bill Wilson and Dr.
Mhm.
Dr. Bob, where there was a big spiritual component, God component, Christian country with that. I, however, have a different spin and understanding. And then when
Mhm.
Bill Wilson, the founder of AA, died, he died as an atheist. So he left
Mhm.
the whole spiritual component personally behind. Some still embrace it and swear by it. If without God, you can't stay sober. Jordan Peterson, the Canadian intellectual, made a comment, you can't overcome addiction without having a spiritual aspect to your recovery. And I disagree. And I think he's brilliant. On that point, I disagree strongly, because there are many people in the program that are atheists and or agnostics that are
Yeah.
sober today and living a good life.
Let me ask you this though. What if nature is the spiritual? Like, it doesn't have to be, what I'm saying,
It
like a
doesn't have to be
religious
the
thing.
10% God in the sky.
There's it could be a doorknob, like you hear
100%
people say that.
higher
So
power.
exactly. So it doesn't have to be one or the other, but it's just what is in you that is going to help you keep making the next best step.
And their perception of what that means. But
Hmm.
most people refer to God as the Christian viewpoint in AA,
Yes.
and they also incorporate church. That isn't always true. For example, I live in Thailand and I go to meetings here. There are people of the Buddhist faith, and everything
Mhm.
is internal. They are
Yes.
successful, and I'm not a believer in formal religion anymore. I was when
Me
I
either.
was younger. I don't embrace
Mhm.
that. And I'm 10% richer than Mitch, who would have had to have given 10% his whole life. So,
You're 10% richer. Right. We're going to call you Rich Mitch. There you
Rich
go.
Mitch, because I haven't given 10% to the church in a long, long time. And
Whatever works for you.
yeah, and for people who choose to go church and do that, good for them. Just be a good, responsible human being. And
Absolutely.
and then overcoming that, I mean, I could talk endlessly about this topic, and you wrote your first book based on something significant happened in your life and caused a major pivot.
Absolutely. Yep.
And where are you today as a result of writing that first book?
Well, I would say much better positioned as an authority, right? That's really
Yes.
the purpose of a book, your business card. But I
Yes.
would also say that not only an authority, because that's not really the reason I wrote it, right? I had mentioned that I wrote it more that if I could help somebody see that there is a hope, something down the line that is worth staying the course for, then I've done my due diligence in writing this book pretty raw. But when I wrote it, I had gone 15 years between the time of the crash and when I wrote this book. And since getting married in between, I came back home to the same place, right? But people are like, you reinvented yourself. And I didn't even do it on purpose. I was just dedicated to education, trying to be a better citizen and service above self, all these kind of things. And I remember whenever a couple people had interviewed me, they were like, what made you come out with this now? Like, people had no idea. And I'm like, because we're all people and we
Mm,
just want to be relatable. We want to know we're not alone.
very much so. And we're a series of connections, or else we would have to check and see if we're human or not. And
Yeah.
and I like your position. You're a giver. You're obviously in healthcare because you care about people. I mean, it's also how you make your living, and there's no shame in that. We all have to eat and sleep and feed our kids.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, you could have chosen to be a lawyer or some other admirable profession. You chose to be a nurse, and now you've
Well, I'm an entrepreneur too.
entrepreneur too. Well, tell us about that. Tell us about the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial Dr. Shanea.
So it's called Clancy Consulting Services and do a lot of, international speaking, like we
Mm.
were talking about. I also do a lot of executive coaching, some exit coaching, which a lot of people, I don't feel like that's very common, but with the way everything's going right now, exit coaching's pretty big because companies
Oh,
want to
yes.
save space and have that transition and get that person to the next position as quick as possible. But people don't know what to say because they're so upset. And the last thing you want to do, right, is go into a new position and badmouth the previous one because that company thinks you're going to do that if something goes wrong. So it's that exit coaching, just, communication.
That's a specialty
And
I haven't heard about. Exit
I
coaching.
know, isn't that wild?
I
It's not
like
very
how you hang your
popular,
hat
but
on
it's
that.
powerful.
Yeah, exit coaching. Oh, that's special. Now I know how to refer to you other than all your titles, but you specialize in exit coaching. That's a whole niche in within a niche.
Yeah. And then also consulting. So, business strategy, helping people come up with, policy, curriculums, you name it, mental health. addiction in the workplace, as well as like drivers. I've worked with a bunch of 500 Fortune companies, just educating them on safety and making good choices when they're behind the wheel. And, that happens more times than not. And that's the other piece of it too.
Have all your books become bestsellers?
Yes.
And
The
how did
first
you do
one,
that?
well, because I'm competitive first and foremost,
Okay,
like
well,
you.
I
You're
love that. Oh yeah, we're type A's, admitted, full
yes.
confession, hands up, all 5 fingers showing.
Yes. And so the first one, I actually kind of hired somebody because I was like you said, I have these credentials. I can't put out something that I think's great, right? And it's garbage. And then my credibility's out the door. And I also want to be mindful of the book that I was putting out. So I really need a lot of eyes on it. And that one was a #1 bestseller. And then the other ones just kind of followed suit. I used the same marketing strategy, continued to build upon that and just learn and invest, right? Investment's the best thing we can do for ourselves, to
Well, when
learn.
you say invest, what tactics, for example? I know quite a bit, and a lot of the people that listen to this podcast are authors and would love to glean your tips.
So the initial book that I did, there was aspects that were like cookie cutter, right? Like, so your social media post, you send out to your CRM, like the standard kind of things. And then it was like, you know what? There's got to be more to this, right? This is really low hanging fruit we're talking, and we're not talking months in advance. So if you look at the marketing aspect, you've really, really got to start that at least 6 months beforehand. At least that's my philosophy, to
Okay.
really get that momentum and to keep people like on the hook, like just little snippets. But then it can also be powerful to like lean into your community, my community, and just kind of before the book even launches, hey, would you mind, helping me? There's so many ways that you could do that, right? I'll give you a copy of the book, like a discount on a, course. There's just, business, a lot of things that could go with that. And so then that increases your audience reach. And I have found that pretty successful so far. I'm sure there's more I could learn. I'm always open-minded, but I think that has been the important piece. And then just keeping that momentum going, that TOMA, top of mind awareness, because you can write a book, but then what? You still got to market it.
Do you believe in all formats? Kindle,
So,
paperback, hardback, audible.
so none of my books are Audible, and everybody keeps asking me for them. I'll
Oh my
maybe do it.
gosh. Oh gosh. How use AI today? I could tell
Oh,
you
what?
about that. Yeah, there.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
love to learn.
yeah. There. I'll send you a link later about this. Something I've discovered recently. Audible has an AI component where they'll read your book for you.
Okay. I
Yes.
think they started doing that on Amazon too. I
Yes.
haven't looked. Yeah.
Oh, you'll
I
sell more.
actually would.
You'll double your book sales.
I know everybody's into that. I haven't done it yet. So yes, I believe in the Kindle. I believe in the hardback, the paperback. People like options. Am I of the believer that if you sell 1 million Kindle books at 99 cents, is that really credible?
100%.
Everybody has, you think?
100%.
I mean, yes, but if I sold them at 25 bucks a book and people were willing to invest in that, doesn't that hold a little bit more weight? I've done it both ways.
Kindle is a bestseller campaign at 99 cents. I use that
Correct.
for my authors to we that way nobody can say no. It's an everybody's got a buck. It's less than a
Yes.
buck. That's part of the marketing message, the hook. Then what happens if you've got an ebook at 99 cents, you've got an Audible book at $10 and a paperback at 14.97 or whatever price it is in
Yeah.
competitive in your category. Many people want to consume all of Dr. Shanea. I personally like to read a physical book. I'll buy an ebook just to see if I like it. And then if I like the initial content, then I'll invest and buy the physical book.
Hmm.
That's the
I agree with
strategy.
that.
So that
Hmm.
it's like a try before you buy. 99 cents is nothing. And I'm also a member of Kindle Unlimited, so I have a certain amount of books that I can look at for free or as part of my membership. And then I'll probably buy, I have a whole bookshelf of paperbacks. I rarely buy hardcover. That I associate more with textbooks. And I don't need a textbook. I like a soft cover book. That's what I prefer to read, so I can highlight and do things if it's in the nonfiction category, most of which I read. So I'm a big fan of 99 cents as a strategy. Some don't use it, but they're really, really big level authors. For example, James Clear, who's written, I sold over 20 million copies of his books. He doesn't need to go at 99 cents. Mel Robbins doesn't need to go at 99 cents. These are authors with 20 million plus, multiple New York Times bestsellers. They're at a totally different level. But for those of us that are independent, like myself, possibly you and some other people, most of my clients, we go in with that because then you'll end up selling more. And the biggest overlooked aspect of being successful as an author is reviews.
Absolutely.
Getting reviews.
People forget to ask for reviews.
Well, but you also need to preload them. There are services out there that'll get reviews on your book. Some of it can be brutal, but at least you'll have them. People buy. If you're above 4 stars, your book is going to get consumed. If you have 100 reviews at 5 stars, something's off. You got to have, because there are cynics out there, no matter what.
Yeah.
And you just accept it. But reviews matter.
Absolutely.
So I
think it was more of a challenge for me because I did the Kindle aspect, and then that was #1 bestseller. And when I hit #1 international bestseller, it was not Kindle. It was a physical paperback book in all of these countries.
That's awesome. That's huge because
it's different, for each person. I just wanted a different challenge.
No, I like it. And when your argument was valid about is it the same if you sell at a 99 cent price for 1 million books? I say yes. What I don't count when people claim bestseller when they give their book away for free.
Oh my gosh, I know.
That I think is totally false, and it doesn't count. I don't believe in free book promotions. For any of my clients, and it weakens your case. I mean, there are people that sell, I can create a bestseller campaign if your book is free. It's like, what? Where's the value in that? There isn't any.
I've never even heard that. Like, it's the whole thing's free?
What? Yeah, well, they do that just to get the book out there because maybe there's a back end or a lead magnet inside the book. So they're accessing Amazon to get it out there for free. And then they have a lead magnet, which then draws them in to sell coaching, consulting, what have you, workbook. The workbook is also a good companion piece to up the cart value when someone comes and buys. And something. But I could talk about publishing all day. But
we can talk about all these things all day.
Yeah, and it's been, I mean, to write all those books, what was your strategy to pump out such volume in a short period of time?
Well, when I worked with that first person, that is when I really learned the art of writing a book, right? Everybody gets nervous because it's like this huge mountain.
Yeah.
But when you learn the basic strategies, it's like, oh, your confidence goes through the roof. And if you just follow those very similar formats and you have that kind of concept and you just keep going, time block, right? It's pretty easy, I think. But I don't do it just to do it. I do it with intention because the last thing I'd want is to put garbage out, right? And so it's really, I'm very strict on that. It's not about the numbers. It's about quality.
Okay. And you were able to pump, how many words were these?
What'd you get? Why'd you ask word count? I don't know.
Well,
I don't
I'm
remember.
sorry.
So I know
about this topic.
Hold on a second.
Well, you could show how many pages. You could give me that idea.
This one's 192.
Okay, so that's probably 30,000 words.
See, okay, you're a step ahead of me. I wouldn't know that number off the top of my head.
Normal, if it's all text and a lot of pictures, if it's text based.
There's no picture.
Yeah, it's probably about 25 to 30. That seems to be the range for paperbacks today. When I published
Yeah.
my first book, and I was published by John Wiley and Sons, I had
Mm-hmm.
to write 50 to 75,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a different constraint than
Yeah, I
today.
want to learn
People,
about your book too.
yeah, people are, well, it's in a different topic. Uh, it was very specialized. And I went with a major publisher at that time. And I've
Mm-hmm.
subsequently written many other books and ghostwritten other books. But I love to hear from people who are prolific. And that is prolific because there are many one book wonders, many
Yes.
one hit wonders who are musicians. But someone who's got a gold album, who's written many, or has a series of books, that's a different cut of a person. And I'm not
Yeah.
surprised, one with all these designations, you're a super achiever. By
Maybe that's my
Is
addiction.
your husband a doctor?
No, he's a Navy veteran.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah. So, I
I
mean, he's got more mindset, positivity than I do. I mean, they have to make it through Hell Week and, get out of these situations where, he can carry my 3 kids like this for like miles. Doesn't even think a second of it because he just goes in that mindset of like, this is the mission before me and I need to complete it.
Wow. Yeah, I admire that. I interviewed in this last week 2 different Navy SEALs. One was a commander, a master chief or something like, yeah, master chief, a Navy SEAL. And
I'll have to check that one out. That would be good.
yeah, and everybody's got something to contribute. Well, how do people get in touch with you in order to embrace your methodologies, your coaching, your entrepreneurship, your books?
My website, ShaneaClancy.com. Follow me on my socials. Um, you might get some laughs too. I put some up of my kids doing crazy stuff because I believe in just being transparent, being like
The
relatable.
only way to
So
be.
yeah, if you want some laughs, some real tools, you just want to, hop on a Zoom and shoot the breeze for coffee, you need a friend, like let's do it and we'll talk from there.
Okay. Well, you've been a great guest, a lot of fun. You've made me smile throughout most of this interview today and impressed because I know what work volume, what commitment and time blocking it takes to pump out all those books. That is serious commitment. So if you've got clients who have you as their mentor, have you as their guide or their coach, they're in for it because I would imagine you help them install those types of winning behaviors, those winning systems in order to
Yes,
get more.
absolutely.
Because the most valuable asset we have, and what's the right word? I heard this when I was young, but now as a man who's about to turn 65 in a couple weeks, there's nothing more valuable than time.
Time.
That's number one at this point. You don't think about it when you're under 30, but when you push over 60, oh my gosh, my time is almost up. If you look at the stats, I better
Yeah.
get busy. I better accomplish X, Y, and Z. So you've done a lot for being young. I'm not going to ask your age.
I'm not even 40.
Yes. Well, you've done a lot for being less than 40, and you've done it because you've managed your time well. I think that's probably one of the key elements. And a mother of 3, and you're a wife. Oh my gosh. I guess Netflix isn't part of your 3-hour daily routine.
Oh no, it's usually Bluey or Mickey Mouse or, Ninja
Something
Turtles.
kids related. That's the mom side.
All the
Well,
old school shows are coming back. I'm like, yes.
oh, cool. Cool. So they go to ShaneaClancy.com.
Yes.
Shanea,
Yes. My
S-H.
website's in the process of being redone.
So is mine. I had some issues with my last web designer. Left me
Yeah.
midstream, so it looks a little jangled, but oh boy, happens.
As long as they can get in touch, we're good, right? It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be fancy.
Okay. Or go
We want
through.
it fancy, but
Yeah, I connected with you on LinkedIn and they can find you there as well.
yes.
Okay. Well, you've been a great guest. And I
Thank
look
you.
forward to having you back when you have a new book out, because then I get to interview you again.
Yes, I want to spend more time, and hopefully your audience and community has found value in something. That's what my
I would say
hope
quite
is.
a few gems we can extract from today's conversation. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to having you back again in the near future.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks for tuning in to the Amazing Authorities Podcast. If today's episode inspired you, take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps more experts like you rise to the top. For behind-the-scenes access and free resources to boost your authority, head to mitchcarson.com. Until next time, stay amazing.